always say that I rode the recession, I guess with my first business, so I know exactly what it's like to lose business, to lose home, to lose a car, to lose, people you could build life with. Normally, I don't even use that word township economy because when you say economy, you're talking about a system that produces. Townships don't produce.
They consume.
They consume.
Today on Catalyst Conversation with Mxolisi, we have someone whose career I've been watching with absolute keen interest for the past couple of years. And I'll let you speak about how you've evolved to where you are, because you've dabbled in a lot of industries that are unrelated, it makes for an interesting story. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Mxolisi G. Buthelezi. And I'll just read a bit on this bio, but I'll let you just add on to it if you will indulge me. It says here you're an expert in township and retail markets.
Yes.
Yes. So let's expand on that. Maybe let's start by letting you to introduce yourself.
Hello, Mel. Thank you very much. It's beautiful to be here. Yes, my name is Mxolisi G. Buthelezi. The G is silent.
What does the G stand for? Why is it silent? Let's not be silent. Let's hear about it. Hi, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the conversation so far. We started this podcast to build a thriving community of change makers, business owners, entrepreneurs just like yourself. We want to share your stories and inspire others. But we can't do it alone. We need you to be part of the movement. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you know when the new episode drops. The more you watch, share, and connect with our content, the bigger our community grows. And when we grow, so do the opportunities for us to learn, grow, and thrive.
Well, it's my government name, hence the G, but I think my mother believed I was going to be a very good man when I grow up.
It's Goodman.
And she named me Goodman. So.
And are you a good man?
I believe people I work with think that I'm a good man. The communities we work with believe I'm a good man. So.
It's out for jury, right?
It's out for jury.
Okay.
And yes, I work with township retail stores. And it's a fascinating journey, because it is a journey, and I'm loving it.
Okay.
Yes.
And how did that journey start? Because I have noted that before you went into this industry, you were in advertising. How do you then move from advertising to township economy, and how do the two marry each other? You could just give us a bit of a background.
Well, it's actually a beautiful story, and they're not that far apart, actually. Mm-hmm. And my background is advertising, marketing, and media. Mm-hmm. I spent over 25 years in that space, working for multinational ad agencies, media brands, print mainly. And also, in that 25 years, also managed to establish my own creative ad agency, June 15, and it's been a very good run.
Interesting name, June 15. That's the eve of a very, very interesting day. Do expand on that. I'm curious.
Well, I love the fact that you get it as the eve of a beautiful part of our history, painful as it was, beautiful at the same time, because it contributed to the democracy that we have in the country. So June 15, even when it was conceptualized as the name of the agency, we always believed that we work behind the scenes. You don't see us. And we, produce some of the beautiful and, campaigns that would be with us for such a long time. So June 15 also pays tribute, if you will, to the few leaders of the student movement at the time. If you think about it, there was no social media. It was a different era altogether. And if you think about it, on the eve of such a a big day, what were they thinking about? And how did they manage to keep a low profile like that, and knowing that the following day is going to be a big day?
A movement.
A movement. So June 15, as an agency, always punch above the weight to say, are we just another run-of-the-mill ad agency, or can we create something special? And today we're talking about konala, which was actually conceptualized by June 15. So
interesting. Okay, let's track back a little bit. We want to get a sense of the man behind the brand.
Right.
I am keen to learn about how you grew up, where you grew up, and the journey that leads to what you are doing now, which I believe, and correct me, I stand corrected, is part of your life's purpose, and it's something I know you feel very strongly about. So,
absolutely.
Mxolisi, as a young man, and how you got to where you are today.
Well, apparently I was born in KZN. I say apparently because I didn't grow up in KZN.
Right.
Yes, I have my roots are in KZN, but as far as I can remember from my grade naught, I was in Soweto. And I share both Soweto and Alex as my homes. And so they both play a huge role in my life. I started my schooling in Soweto, Orlando West, St. Martin's, and moved a bit and matriculated in Alex. So I claim Alex more because as a young man and in my formidable years as a young adult, I think Alexandra played a huge role. And I went on to study marketing, but by that time the advertising bug had already, beaten me. Back in, I think this should be back in 1994. The country was pregnant with such huge possibilities. We're going into a new South Africa, as it were. And, I was always intrigued because I always knew that I want to follow the path of entrepreneurship or being a businessman. And, a mate of mine and I, we used to buy this publication, which was called Black Enterprise. And it used to profile, this Black business people
Amazing.
At the time. And it was so inspirational to read about different business people. And if you remember, back then, Black people were still, living in the townships and rural areas because of the Group Areas Act. So the business people that we're talking about, they were so accessible in the sense that they were township business people, but they were running formidable businesses. I mean, if you go back to people like they've passed on. There was a gentleman called Date Achingonyeni, and those are the doyens of Black business. Even back then, during apartheid, he was already exporting cane furniture to Europe. He was in the same group with the founder of African Bank as we know it now, Dr. Muzwenyana, who just passed on, may his soul rest in peace. So those folks were accessible in the sense that they were in the townships. And so with that kind of upbringing and socialization, one always believed that, you can be a successful business person coming from the townships. So by 94, I'd stumbled from this publication on a story of a first Black advertising agency. And at the time I was like, what is an advertising agency?
Yeah. And
what do they do? And these folks were called head boys, Abelusi. Very, 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 suave and debonair gentleman. And I still remember this picture. And I said to my friend, this is me in the next few years. I'm going to own an ad agency. So, that was the start of my career.
That is pretty interesting to me that even in the township, two of the biggest townships in Johannesburg, I believe, Alex and Soweto, you were exposed to such, high caliber Black excellence of people who are in a certain industry and making things happen.
Absolutely. I mean, Soweto, you cannot talk about the history of this country, and with all due respect to, obviously, I mean, our country is very big, but Soweto has always played a very, very significant role in our black, business politics. Alex is the mother of all townships, so the story is even much more richer.
Gomorrah.
And,
the well-known, infamous Gomorrah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, Head Boys, the folks that started it, they're from Soweto, but for our luck, their first agency was in Marlborough, which is a stone throw away from Alex.
Correct.
So, when we saw that, and my friend and I, we actually went and camped outside Head Boys, and we were like, well, we want to know more about advertising and want to be in advertising. And we really... that
How young were you? What age is this?
It was 2021. And they took us in for a vocational, training. In fact, I have to pay tribute to one of the founders, Mr. Peter Wundler, who actually took it up to himself. And I remember him putting us in the sport room and he said, "You're studying marketing, I want you to forget about that. I'm going to teach you advertising."
Oh, wow.
And that's where the journey started. And, from there, I got a bursary to start at AAA School of Advertising. And after that, I moved to Cape Town and worked for one of the largest ad agencies. And that's where my grounding in building brands and, just falling in love with building brands started. Moved back, worked for other agencies, moved to media space. And my last corporate job, I was the brand manager for the Financial Mail, which is a leading business publication.
Oh, wow.
So I've always gravitated towards, business. Even before then, there was, football, soccer marketing, but eventually I moved into more serious business. Media, and that was before I left corporate to follow the entrepreneurial journey.
It's pretty interesting. It seems like you hit certain milestones in your career. And perhaps, soccer sounds like something a young man from a township would want to get involved in, and then now Financial Mail.
Yep.
How is that journey in exposure to different sort of sectors and industries, but still within the greater media umbrella? How did that impact you and help you hone sort of your trajectory to where you are today? And how important were those roles for you?
They were, and I didn't know at the time that they were building towards something. But, working with a publication, a football publication at a time that was very popular, Kickoff.
Kickoff, I remember Kickoff very well. Popular sports magazine, soccer.
And so, there were soccer babes.
But of course.
Yeah. And so you obviously learn and continue to learn to be street smart, for lack of a better word, because that's what football is about. But then you have also an opportunity to be in the boardroom. And moving into Financial Mail, I think also I looked at my career at the time and, what I wanted to do. And Financial Mail, it offered me the best opportunity to be around the best brains in the country when you're talking business at that level. And I had huge opportunities with that brand, representing it. It was an honor, an absolute honor. And it opened quite a few doors because leaving that job, I went straight into business. And my first business was actually I was in business with a JSE listed company. So that, was for me a huge achievement at the time, even now, to be able to put together a business concept that I could go and discuss with the JSE listed. They were listed at the Altex, the folks that we work with. So my first business, my first baptism of fire in entrepreneurship was with a JSE listed company.
In a totally different sector, I imagine.
Totally different sector. So the business was in cosmetics. Believe it or not, I know a thing or two about foundation.
I'm me.
Makeup.
Mine looks good, right? Not too bad.
Perfect.
Blended. Oh, okay.
The tone goes
Right.
with the skin.
It's all uniform.
Yeah. So I dabbled on that, and this was before, unfortunately, the 2008, 2009 global meltdown, financial meltdown. So I always say that I rode the recession, I guess with my first business. So I know exactly what it's like to lose business, to lose home, to lose a car, to lose, people you could build life with. And that didn't discourage me because, having lost all those things during the economic meltdown, the easiest thing to do was probably to go back and look for a job. And that's when I launched my ad agency, actually.
It's pretty curious to me that you moved from different sectors. I mean, this kickoff, which is soccer, still under media,
Yes.
advertising. And then you went to financial mail, which I imagine is a little more serious.
Yep.
And then you go into an entrepreneurship role, baptism of fire.
Yes.
In the thick of an economic crisis.
Right.
And that is your first experience with entrepreneurship.
Yes.
How did this experience then hone and sort of started the journey to this is where I want to go? Because it would have been pretty easy to say, let me retract and go back to a guaranteed
Right.
salary with benefits, etc. How did you then decide I'm going to stay this course? And what was your main driver?
Now, without sounding like, man of God,
Nothing wrong with that.
entrepreneurship is a calling. And it is not something that, you wake up one day and say, well, I think I've got an idea and I'm going to do this. Business people, business owners do that, but entrepreneurs are different in doing things. They always look for opportunities for innovation. They have a sense, whether trained or acquired over a period of time, to actually see what a lot of people don't see. And for that, they become pathfinders. But that comes with a lot of challenges, because imagine you probably one of few people who see something that other people don't see the way you see it. And you have to convince them. And that takes some doing. Moving from financial mail, which was the last corporate job that I did, to the business, our first business, it wasn't that challenging because I was moving into and working with partners who were entrepreneurs and built their business to a level that they listed at the junior stock exchange. So, it was a soft landing in a way. I still had to work. I still had to go and, raise capital for the business or the asset that we bought that they, started with and taking it forward. But we didn't know that in the next, 18 months, we're going to be hitting this financial crisis, which was global. No one could do anything about it. And, their business went through a lot. And that, for me, again, was, so what now? And as an entrepreneur, by that time, I don't think I was even thinking about going back to looking for a job. And I then, decided, let me do what I love and that I know very well, which is advertising. And started our ad agency, beautiful, we had a good run. It's a tough industry, as it were with every industry in the country, especially for Black entrepreneurs. But I was very clear what is it that I wanted to achieve with an agency like June 15. Apart from being a creative agency and building campaigns for clients, we always challenge ourselves and the team that I worked with at the time that, as cliche as it sounds, thinking outside the box, but I said to people, if we could build clients' brands, can we build our own brands? And that challenged especially the two senior creative directors I worked with. We then launched within June 15 something we call Black Labels, which was a division that focused solely on building, if you like, Black-owned, Black-run brands. And that is basically the history of where Konala started. So when we did that, we then realized that there are a lot of people out there who required our services or require services of classical advertising agencies, but they can't afford.
Absolutely, 100%.
They're small, so forth. So when we delve into that, again, we realize that we're probably not even solving the problem that we thought we were solving at the time. These folks were not just requiring classical advertising and marketing. They had more problems than we thought. And the biggest challenge was access to market for their products. And with that, again, we challenged ourselves and we said, wait a minute, if we're trying to build and work with this client to build them to the level where they can be, a big client, even for us, but they cannot access the market, then maybe we need to rethink the whole thing.
So in your current role with Konala and speaking to, I love that whole black label concept. It's not the Zamalek, not that kind of black label. No.
These are black labels.
It's
black
being a
brands.
conduit and pushing black businesses and having, under a black label, that is incredible. What did you find was the biggest frustration with accessing those markets for the black labels?
They vary, Mel, but the biggest problem, apart from accessing funding and everything else, it is access to market. And whenever I speak to people who are not from South Africa, knowing that black people in South Africa are in a majority, it's kind of like an oxymoron. Like, wait a minute. You are the majority.
Absolutely.
How then you're talking about black labels or black brands or black entrepreneurs struggling to access the market? Until you understand how our economy is structured and why we don't have distribution channels that help such products or manufacturers or SMMEs, however you want to call them, it will be difficult to understand why we're having that problem. So we zoom into that, and the brief was very clear to the team. We said, what is it that we can at least say it is black owned, or is part of the black culture that slightly resembles retail? And the first thing was, we have spaza shops. And the second challenge then was, since we build brands, why are spaza shops operating in silos? Even though they're in the townships, and yes, they're black, but they haven't made any significant contribution to the economy. They basically survivalist, they informal.
Absolutely.
So it makes it difficult to even take that product and say, I'm going to put it on a shelf. Which shop and who do you leave behind? And that was some of the things that made us to go to the market and do research first. So we actually did research for about 3 years before we even coined Konala. And before we launched. So it was all those things to say, we found these clients, there's quite a lot of them who want to build brands, who want to put product. And we zoom into the FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods. And we said, there's quite a lot of talented people. Mel, you could have a recipe that was left, for you by your grandmother. How you bake cakes is different from the next person. But would you be able to build a business where you bake your cakes with your recipe that can reach a wider market? And the answer is a lot of SME manufacturers like that. Their products will never see light of day with the big retailers.
But why is that? We're in the township, we're all black. And I remember as far back as in primary school, every other street had a shop owner who was black.
Yes.
By Bra Steve, unale shop in the township and, convenience, etc. Or a certain mama selling magwinya.
Right.
So township economy has always been thriving.
Right.
We are our own market. Why do you think we battle with translating that? And why would I go to a big retailer and go shop for my entire month's necessities, whether, cosmetics and all that I need, household items in them, as opposed to just going to my neighbor where I don't have to spend money on transportation,
right,
where I do not have to worry about, the logistics, the time spent, etc.
Yes.
What do you think the barrier is?
Well, it's a huge, problem or rather topic to dissect, but it has to do with our history as a country. The fact that we come from apartheid, we come from a situation where black people were not allowed to operate certain businesses. In fact, the Spaza business is the rebellious sort of business. How it started, in the urban areas, in areas like Soweto, even the word spaza comes from a Zulu word, phazamisa. So it's the bastardization of the word phazamisa, which means to disrupt or to,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I just learned something
so
new.
when to disturb or to disrupt, so phazamisa. So how spazas were formed was the way the economy was structured was that townships were places where cheap labor, us, black people, our parents, grandparents, would live. And it's labor for big business and so forth. So in our areas, there will be a corner shop here and there, it started. But because people were paid in either, end of the month or wages, end of the week and so forth, and they're all working. But our families are different from a typical nucleus family where it's a mom, father, and kids, right? So our family, when we say family, with black people or townships, it's more than that. So there's cousins and so forth.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, when we run out of food before month end or payday, basically, when we go to the neighbor to go and borrow sugar.
Right.
And we're going to bring it back when we've done our grocery, we borrow salt. And so Spaza started there.
Oh.
Folks who realized that, wait a minute, this could turn into a business. They started selling, cool drinks. So, we sell cold drinks to ourselves. It's weekend. No one is going to work who's going to bring back cold drink. So it sells cold drink. But then started adding these grocery items. That's why they were in small packs.
Right, from the bartering system.
It's a bartering system.
Give me eggs, I'll give you butter, whatever the case may be. And then
it was borrowing sugar and, I grew up in Soweto, so you knew which households or homes your mom preferred to borrow sugar from.
Right.
They'll even see you coming, you're already carrying a you know,
A little container.
a little container.
Right.
Right?
It's prescribed
It's
how much you want. Yeah.
And even when you see someone, you know, from your neighbor coming in carrying, like, they're going to borrow sugar or salt or whatever.
Right.
So this is why those shops, which were started in the house, by the way, that's why they are home-based, through the window, and people started selling small pack of sugar, salt, so forth. Over time, they evolved. So we call them spaza because spaza then means, in township language, something that is not for real. So these are not the real shops. The mentality, unfortunately, of that didn't evolve with taking these stores and recognizing that they're no longer spaza shops, but they're actually convenience stores.
100%.
We did have corner shops, general dealers. Those were shops. Go to shop home, $8, right?
Yeah.
But the home-based spaza was that with the mentality of saying, we just need this sugar for now.
Enough to carry me for now.
Carry us for now, and when mom, dad's paid, we're going to go do grocery. But these stores, they mushroomed, and it became a sector. The unfortunate thing is that the folks that started and the children of spaza shops didn't have the foresight of saying, this is actually a real business. How do we take it forward?
Further.
I say this because I said that I'm from both Soweto and Alex, so I share the story, but I lived with my, in English we say uncle, but he's my father's big brother, and he had a spaza. So I worked in a spaza shop as a young man. I have that experience, and I've realized when we were conceptualizing this to say, wait a minute, these stores have always been silo in their mentality, in their way of doing things, but there's a huge opportunity to bring them together and then create something like a konala. And that is what we're doing.
Konala loosely translates right here. So it speaks to locality. It speaks to ease of access, convenience.
Absolutely.
Right? Tell us about the journey and what the greater vision is. I know there's other value chain line items that inform the body. So yeah, indulge us with exactly what you're thinking. Konala,
starting with a name. We obviously, being an agency, this is what we do, conceptualizing, and two things. It means exactly that right here. So we're looking at these stores. They're convenience stores. They're community stores. They are closer to the consumer. So proximity-wise. So how do we build a brand that resonates with that? And the name konala is a very strong word that describes the locality of the stores themselves. So we call it konala local stores. We went with local instead of community. It became too long, but they are community stores. So for us, community is embedded, or community development is embedded in the konala DNA. So it's not, the model itself is around community development. And also corner is English for corner, so corner shops.
corner.
So these are corner shops.
I see the play on words.
So it's corner shops. The bigger idea is, as the textbook description of konala, we describe it as a network of retail stores trading under the brand konala, including their value chain. So in other words, we're building a township retail brand across a number of stores now. So it's no longer just the home-based spaza shops. So we have about 6 stores. This is where the vision now is going. So it's home-based spaza shops. Kodishopong is the grocery store. They're slightly bigger than a typical home-based shop. So they allow a consumer, a customer to walk in. And that brings a lot of advantages for the brands, especially the unknown or new brands when it comes to touch and feel. We're adding fruit and veg. And there's a beautiful story, Mel, about fruit and veg and why we're going that route. If you go to any township across the country, it's very difficult to find lettuce and cucumber.
Because perishable goods, I mean, people sit in the sun and sell them at a corner table. Lettuce is not, it's going to wilt in hours, right?
Now,
so how do you then ensure your fresh produce, the freshness is sustained with no cold rooms?
Imagine that in the townships, people are not eating fresh vegetables, and this is not knocking the hawkers that have always been there. In fact, our stores are going to make sure that they become a distributor or a warehouse to help those small hawkers to come and get fresh stock from us so that they can also sell fresh.
Oh, so you'll be the cold stores for them so that they don't have to worry about not having sold the fresh produce for the day and it goes off.
So that's the beauty about it. Konala, and I'm explaining with fruit and veg to understand that community is at the center of Konala. We believe in 3 C's as part of our philosophy: co-creating, collaborating, and coexisting. Once you do that, you realize that even though we're a commercial business, we don't believe in winner takes all. We actually believe in collaborating with other businesses that are in the community and enhancing them. So our fruit and veg will ensure that. If you think about it, if we can't have fresh lettuce and cucumber in the townships, imagine how many vegetables are not there for our communities. We worked when we did our research and we realized one of the most disturbing issue that we hope we can address in the townships and rural areas, and that is of malnutrition and stunting among children. And, there are a lot of papers that have been released, but if you want to focus just on retail, you realize that these children are not exposed to quality vegetables. And we want to change that with Konala Fruit and Veg. So the offering is going to go beyond. Not only people should go to the big retailer to get a good butternut. If you go now to any township and you're looking for fresh sweet potatoes, butternut, or you can't find it. And we need to change that. So that's part of Konala's mission. And then the other stores that we're going to be bringing in is Konala butcheries. And again, township butcheries, as we know them, they have a certain offering, but we need to increase that and make sure that we have more for the consumer. We will be adding also DIY hardware express stores.
Nice.
And they're based and they're informed by consumer insights. When we did our research, we know exactly what kind of products people are looking for in those environments. And my personal favorite, which I am so looking forward to it, is Konala coffee shops.
Coffee shops in the townships?
Absolutely. We always had a culture of drinking coffee. One can argue that we're not drinking quality coffee because most of the brands that you find in our cupboards, they're actually chai curry. It's not coffee. But the culture of drinking coffee has always been in the townships. The culture of coffee shops, no. And it's a huge opportunity. And under the umbrella Konala, you're going to see coffee shops. And I always believe that we don't have meet and greet environment for township entrepreneurs themselves.
Absolutely.
There's no coffee shop where we can, have a meeting.
Talk. Absolutely, yeah.
And, we have to, we can't go to a chisanyam. There's noise. But look out for Konala coffee shop. So we're very excited about where Konala, the brand, and the business is going.
Now, tell me about the understanding the township or the retail dynamics in the township economy. There's a lot you have to consider.
Absolutely.
It's a totally different ballgame, unlike your big retailers. Obviously, you are helping the community be economic contributors as
Right.
well, and including the value chain. But talk us through the basic dynamics of understanding retail, being formalized, understanding financial literacy, and how the business of business, basically. How do you then understand you want to bridge the divide between, the informal and formal?
Absolutely. We do see ourselves as a conduit where we're bringing in big business, government, and other stakeholders to work very, very well with township entrepreneurs or township enterprises in the retail space. We currently starting a relationship. We hope it's going to be a good relationship with, for an example, the wholesale and retail SETA. They have amazing programs that we believe if they can reach the retailers or retail stores and retail entrepreneurs and business people in the townships, we can do business differently. It's information or lack of information. And this SETA can play a huge role, just like other stakeholders. The so-called informal market needs to be semi-formalized and formalized. And I'm talking beyond retail. Because when you do that, you're unlocking the value that ordinarily these entrepreneurs wouldn't be able to do when they're trading in silos. And as much as we have our own IP, we believe that as konala, we're actually starting a movement. I'd be happy to see other entrepreneurs within the township market in other spaces looking at typical township businesses and regrouping those so-called informal and formalizing them for a greater good. We have a lot of tire fixers. You can go to any township. The guys at the corner who can fix your tires.
Absolutely, yeah.
Within this.
I know a guy.
Right? You know a guy.
Yeah.
They are mechanics. They are panel beaters. They are not benefiting from the economic setup of the country because they're in the townships. They're told that they're informal. They're working in silos. So I'm hoping and I'm challenging entrepreneurs out there to say, well, here's a model that we started with konala, which is focusing on retail stores, which I've just outlined. How about somebody look at the other market or markets in the township and say, well, let's group these tire fixers with the panel beaters and the mechanics, and let's go to these insurance companies, because township people do drive cars, aren't they? They're insured, aren't they? Where do they go and fix these cars when Bra Steve, who's very good, cannot fix their car because he's not part of the insurance?
Absolutely.
So there is a need to formalize the informal market for a greater good of the protagonist as well as the consumers and the community at large, yeah?
You speak about the Bra Steves, the guy that can, fix your car tire, the guy that you can fix even your heel. You break a heel, there's a guy you can go to.
Absolutely.
Right? How do we then ensure sustainability beyond formalization and training and capacitation? Sustainability, because I get that a lot of people are doing it as a reaction to unemployment.
Yes.
Perhaps it's a skill they learned in an attempt to ensure that they have food coming in to put bread on the table.
That's right. You're absolutely right, Mel. I think at the moment we don't have, and I don't want to be bogged down to the terminology, but we don't have entrepreneurs. We have survivalists in the township. We have business owners, yes, but we have survivalists, self-employed. So self-employed means I can't be employed somewhere, so I'm self-employed.
Absolutely.
Entrepreneurs are able to see that gap and say, how do I then make this arm to work with this arm, this hand to work with this hand? So we need more people who can build ecosystems that allow that small business to be part of a tribe, for lack of a better word, so that we benefit, not as individuals. I don't sell sneakers, and I'm not knocking people who sell sneakers. They're doing a very good job. We do need shoes, But when you sell sneakers, and that's you're a business person who sells sneakers. Yes, you create jobs along the way. But I'm in a business of creating ecosystems and platforms to allow businesses, independent businesses, to flourish, because now they're following a certain code of conduct that allows them to compete as an economic bloc. It is very important. And township businesses will survive if they start to, and I'm not talking about associations or forums and chamber of commerces. Those we've tried, and I think we need a little bit of a different strategy now that talks to ecosystems as opposed to just an association with, Mr. Chairman, and so forth. And I'm not knocking those. They've run their race. And I think now townships require ecosystems. And at the heart of building ecosystems is technology.
Technology, 100%. Innovation, digitalization, technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's technology. It's now payment systems. All these big companies are rushing into the townships and taking payment systems because that's where the market is. And it depending on which business you're at, but if you're talking FMCG, your products are consumed by the 80% population, and the 80% population, between 70 and 80% of that population is found in the township and rural areas. So it's not by by mistake that we're seeing big brands like Tiger Brands talking about going to the township to brand spaza shops. We've seen how big companies like ShopRite, the group, going into the townships. Now they have cash and carries, saying they're supporting spaza shop. It's because that's what is happening. We've seen big brands like Pick and Pay launching Boxer, who became actually profitable within their group with their last, financial results when the group didn't do well. But Boxer, that is in the townships, did well. So are township people ready? Can they compete? Or are they just the consumers? And this is where konala is best suited to actually assist as far as we can.
Now, the future of township retail, and the challenges and opportunity in expanding the retail brand.
Right.
Would it be accurate of me to then say, you as being the sort of Uber, quote unquote, of the township economy retail space, with all the challenges that you observe, what are your future plans? We've spoken innovation, and maybe talk us through your entire ecosystem and how you do what you do to empower and capacitate these communities in these townships economy space.
Mel, I can tell you, I'm not Hercules.
Yeah.
We definitely need government. We need government to reform. We need government to come up with clear policy. In Gauteng, for example, the former Premier Makura launched TIDA, which is Township Economic Development Act. But it needs national government to actually intervene. Township are no longer the big hostels that are just offering cheap labor to business. These are places of business now These are places where people live. And if you look at unemployment in our country, we definitely need policy change. Otherwise, how things continue to be where they are, we're going to see more unemployment. We're going to see township economy that we're talking about not creating jobs. Because I normally I don't even use that word township economy, because when you say economy, you're talking about a system that produces. Townships don't produce.
They consume.
They consume. So we don't have a township economy. At best, we have the movement of goods and services for consumption. It's even worse that township people have been actually even kicked out from that movement of goods. If you think about spaza shops right now.
100%.
So we need a government policy, a very, very, very strong government policy. Let me just make an example, since we're talking about that and, in a bigger scheme of things. We under apartheid, we had a policy called Group Areas Act. So for young people who don't know what Group Areas Act means, was that black people and white people were not allowed to live together. Black people lived in the townships and rural areas, and white people lived in the suburbs. Even in business, it meant that black people, even though they were just a conduit to move the products for consumption, but they were running successful businesses in that space. Even though they were not allowed to produce for themselves, but they were still running successful businesses. With the scrapping of the Group Areas Act, I believe that the lawmakers didn't think or consider what will happen to those businesses. Today, you can go to any township, everybody will tell you about a story from Tate Mang Mang, who used to run that shop, and then he's no longer there, or he gave it to the kids and they can't run it. Yes and no. No, because after the Group Areas Act, we saw these big malls moving into the townships. These malls are not owned by township people. That's the first thing. So they moved into townships and they disseminated township businesses. So big retailers moved in there, killed all the general dealers. Way before we talk about, the foreign nationals came in. So our research has shown that a lot of areas where big malls moved in, businesses suffered. But what is worse is that these are not township people that are building these malls or who have been funded to build malls. On top of that, by the time they tend the soil, there's anchor tenants. Those anchor tenants are big retailers, and they're not owned by township people. Then all the stores in those malls are not owned by township people. So to be happy for townships that they have malls, there's some services that they can get which they couldn't before, yet they're not beneficiaries. That's problem number one. There needs to be economic reform about townships. And it has to come at the highest level of government to say, what does that mean? Who were the business people in this space? And what did these malls do? There was a market inquiry about the malls, by the way, in 2018 by the Competition Commission. Studies are all there. And township entrepreneurs put their case in front of government. But there's nothing that has happened. Instead, we're seeing the mushrooming of these malls, and our people, the only thing that are being promised is jobs. So while we wait for government, but we can't wait forever, this is why as entrepreneurs, we have to come up with innovations that try and reverse that. But we do need government. There is nothing that you can do without government because they're policy. So they need to put policy in place, and they need to consult with us as township ecosystem builders. Mel, in your space, you speak to a lot of entrepreneurs. In every day of the week, somewhere in South Africa, there's talk of township economy.
It's become the new buzzword.
It's a new buzzword. They're actually players who make money to talk about township economy. But they talk about township economy, not with a view of changing things. So every day, somewhere, people are talking about the township economy. But you go to the township economy doesn't produce jobs, doesn't create full-time jobs. It is informal, and everybody talks about how resilient the township economy is. No, COVID lockdowns, we found in our space people that have signed up who wanted to join konala. By the time the country was open, and we go to some of them, they shut down their small spaza shops that they couldn't handle the lockdown. Either they handed over to foreign nationals, or they turned their rooms into accommodation. But what is painful is that 60 to 80% of a lot of businesses that couldn't handle COVID, they turned into alcohol selling places. So in a typical township, in a 2-kilometer radius, you have more places selling alcohol than selling fruit and vegetables. So for us, it's designed why we going with coffee shops. It's a long story around it, but we deliberately don't have konala liquor, and we have konala coffee shops. It's because of what we see in the townships. So people who are not in the townships, when they're coming in, they see things from a third-party point of view. It's like back in the day, Mel, when we still started in advertising, this is in the late 90s. Believe it or not, ad agencies, we used to actually have township tours for agency people that we work with who know nothing about the townships, who are mainly white, clients who are mainly white. So we'll be visiting the townships every Fridays. I mean, I was in Cape Town then, we'll visit the townships in Khayelitsha, and everybody will come back like, oh my God, because it's the first time they're in the townships. This is in the 90s. We only just voted in 1994, right. So there was that,
right.
Group Areas Act. So people, they know there's townships. Oh, there's townships. So they go there, like, oh, look at people. And I always say, and it's like, but people in townships are so nice. They're always smiling. I'm like, yeah. Well, they're smiling for you, Mlungu, because they're hoping you're bringing a job. So no one is smiling because they're just nice and they're looking at you and they're like, oh, nice. And they're like, Police, what are you talking about? It's like, this is our reality. If they see us bringing you here, they speak to us. They're not smiling the way they're smiling with you. So they're asking, what is going on? You guys going to be bringing jobs? You're bringing abelungu. We're like, no, they just come. They've heard about this thing called chisanyama. This was before chisanyamas were this chisanyama. So it was like,
now it's become a tourist attraction.
A tourist attraction.
Yeah.
But we have evolved our businesses, Mel, and semi-formalized. But we need policy intervention. We need a serious policy change from government.
Be that as it may, we understand and appreciate and agree that there needs to be policy change.
Right.
What are you doing as somebody who has this beautiful concept to say, while we wait, let us be the change we want to see?
Absolutely.
And that's why I want you to take me back to the konala structure. You have DCs, distribution centers.
That's right.
You have transportation. There's the value chain is really fascinating to me. Please talk us through that.
Thank you. So when we say konala is a network of township retail stores and the value chain, we looked at the value chain or other business levers that make these stores work properly. One of the first things that we found when we did research about why Black South Africans were running spaza shops were seemingly not matching others in the market. The biggest problem was logistics, was transportation for their stock. you'll find someone with money to replenish, but they don't have transport. And it's exactly that. So you go to a store that is operated by a South African, he's selling what we call ayiko.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're looking for that? It's transport. So part of our model, we've built the owner-driver scheme concept of the township buggy owners. So people from the same neighborhood who are, I don't own a store, but I've got a buggy. Yes, if you go to our website, you can register your details there. We know who you are. And when time is right, we come in and say, well, these are the stores that are allocated for you for distribution. And tech plays a huge role in
100%.
that. So that's that. We're looking at Stokvels. Everybody talks about Stokvel in the townships. Again, just like we are evolving the township retail stores, we're evolving Stokvels. We see Stokvels as community banks, not microlenders, as everybody now is thinking of, but Stokvels, they put money together, they can lend. No. We actually see them as investors. We see them as community banks. Right now, we are partly recruiting the Stokvels so that they own the stores.
Interesting.
Yes. We want Stokvel groups to own stores. And now you've got 6 stores to choose from. Now, they're no longer just going to be meeting every other month and contributing money. We're changing even the mindset and how Stokvels were done. These are community banks. If you think about it, typical Stokvels in the townships are run by women.
In the main. Yeah.
And as much as we have food Stokvels, we actually want them to own those stores. Because these are mothers, some are single mothers. They know very well. They are the ones who actually go into the bag and grab the purse.
Absolutely.
To take out their money to go and buy.
And they know what they need in the house to keep the household
So they need to own the stores.
Absolutely.
And that's where we're going with Stokvels. We see them as community banks, and we see them changing a whole lot of things because they have the understanding of putting money together, and they're very disciplined. If you think about it.
Absolutely know how to stretch your rent, right?
They know how to stretch your rent.
Yeah.
If you think about it, they're actually business people. It's just that they were never given an opportunity. So even some of them can say, how to start a business? They don't know where to go. Now we've got a model where they don't even have to leave the jobs they're in. But that store can operate. And they become investors. Then they can now look at the books. I say Bochoma, Kokasi, can own a store. The group of 5 friends who are Bochoma, as much as they're able to put money together to do a vacation, which is a great thing, they can put some money together and own a store. And this is what we're taking to folks out there. We have unemployed graduates that are part of our value chain, especially the marketing and business studies graduates. So if you go to our website again, that information is there in terms of how we want to include them to be part of our shopper marketing teams, and that's very exciting. Local, other businesses, and we said the value chain. So, we don't make acha, and we don't want to kill someone's business who's been distributing or selling acha in the community.
Right.
But we want to co-opt them, and they're part of the value chain so that they access more market. And that's the our coffee shops. Those scones that you're going to be eating from our coffee shops are from
Mxolisi.
Mxolisi around.
Does them for funerals and weddings.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Here you go.
It's a powerful.
So I can't talk about other things. This is our IP. We don't want people copying us.
No, 100%. Now, it seems it has a whole lot of anchors. right? We spoke
Correct.
about the cold rooms for fresh produce. We talked about the logistical parts.
Correct.
What about the skill transfer of youth within that community, the people you're empowering? How is it that you're going to formalize them and equip them with all the skills and training that they need to be competent, sustainable business leaders?
I'm glad you raised that question, because in all that I'm saying, I forgot to mention training. It is the cornerstone of any successful business. And Mel, we've seen, if you talk to township entrepreneurs or business people, they've been overly workshopped.
Workshops themselves are big business.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
People have been given a certificate of attendance of something that is got nothing to do with what they do. Training is at the core of what will make these stores a success. The store operators, the network partners, they will be trained. And it's constant training. It's not a once-off. It's not, we've inducted you, you know how to operate the point of sale system, so thank you very much. No, it's constant training. It's them understanding retail trends, even from other parts of the world. You know, how Europe is everybody now is talking about, gas deliveries and so forth. That is part of the new trends. Do they know that? How does it impact their business? So they're going to be trained. And the training is part of the skills transfer and skills development. You know, you'll be surprised that a whole lot of people who are running retail, in a retail sector in the townships, 90% of them have never seen a profit and loss statement. And they're running a business. They don't understand what cost of sale is. So we have done that, and we've put together training modules in place. And this is why earlier on I mentioned even the CETA, like the WR CETA, wholesale and retail CETA, because these are stakeholders that we want to work with. They have these programs that will be training people. So definitely, training is the integral part of konala.
What is your leadership and legacy? What is it through all your life's journey in your career, the things that pull your heartstrings, community development,
Yes.
leadership development, personal development to some degree, right?
That's correct.
Business development.
Yes.
What do you think Mxolisi G Buthelezi's legacy is that is linked to your purpose and your ikigai?
It's a very difficult question, really. But I'd love to be known, especially around township business, as someone who are giving a voice for township businesses in a way that moves them forward. In other words, I appreciate the people who've been there before us. You know, if you look at people, again, mentioning Dr. Motsuenyane, may soul rest in peace, these are folks that even back then, during the dark days of apartheid, believed that black people should have their own bank. If you read his story, that it took him 10 years to raise R1 million among his people, who he got more rejection than people that accepted him, but he never gave up. And he built that bank. Well, today, African Bank, I don't know if it's still got his legacy, other than just the advent. But the real African bank that the Dr. Motsuenyane, the Achinkonyenis, these are the doyen of black business, the NAFCOC of the time. If I can contribute even 1% of what those folks were doing for black people in the townships, I'll be content with that. If one day they mention them and somehow my name gets mentioned, I would know that then there's some legacy somewhere.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, for a person that's watching this, what is your biggest call to action and something that would apply to your younger self through all that you have, been through how you were compelled to ensure that you're a contributor to the economy in such a powerful way? What would that be?
Wow. Knowing what I know now, I would really work with lawmakers. Mel, we can have all these innovative ideas, but we're a country that has a history, and that history, it is not sitting in the history. It's affecting us now, and it's affecting generations that are coming. And I believe that our country need lawmakers who will make it intentional and deliberate to really empower Black communities. It cannot be that we talk about townships and township economy and it's still an extractive economy. And township people are not benefiting out of it.
From a multi-billion rand industry.
It's one thing for us to be innovative, and I'm an ideas guy. I'm an ad man. I'm a madman, and I love, to challenge myself and those that I work with. We can have ideas from here to Timbuktu and back, but some of those ideas will never see light of day without government intervention. And I am really, really appealing that we need to relook at our policies. There are young people who would not talk like us to say, I used to work for this company and I worked for this company and I built my career from that. There are people who never have that chance. So it means times have changed. Again, it means that the time of monopolies creating jobs are no longer there. You can have so many employees, but they will have that much of the profit. If you understand me. So we need to reform, allow new entrants into the market, into the economy, to also thrive. And those people are trapped in the townships. And I use the word trapped because it is, unfortunately, they're trapped. I work in the townships. I see young people, able bodies, who are trapped, who cannot be helped to think beyond where they are, and there are no resources to help them get out of the situation or build a better situation where they are.
Mxolisi, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for the impact you're making. I think you're a social activist.
I am indeed.
I also have picked up like a pearl of wisdom, and my biggest takeaway is to stay the course with what you believe, regardless of how hard it is, and that is why we think you're a catalyst. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.